Okay, so if you're not asked about work, studies, or your home, you will be asked about hometown, right? This is where you were born and raised, okay, originally. Don't worry too much if you speak about. So some people may have been born in a city but then raised in a different city. It doesn't matter too much which city you talk about, right? The examiner doesn't care if it's accurate. They just want to hear you talk about the place where you grew up, right? So some people get very nervous and think, oh, but I wasn't born in that city, but I spent most of my life there. It's fine. Just choose one. Some of the questions you may be asked: what are the local people like in your hometown? What is the main local industry in your hometown? So the industry referring to things like maybe mining, fishing, manufacturing, medical, maybe education, right? What the main jobs are. What improvements would you like to make to your hometown? And is your hometown a good place to bring up children? Let's have a look at the first question. Give me your answer. What are the local people like in your hometown? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. This is my model answer. Well, I don't want to generalize too much or to be too stereotypical. I mean, by and large, the people are very friendly. Because we're on the coast, a lot of people here are into water activities and sailing, surfing, fishing is very, very popular. It's a big industry here. But I find the people to be very friendly and easy to get on with. Okay, let's have a look now at some of the language there. Well, I don't want to generalize too much or be too stereotypical. So to generalize is to say that something is always true, even though it's only true sometimes. Stereotypical is the same thing, is to say that all people here do this, but it's not true, right? To say that all British people are very polite, all British people carry an umbrella and wear a hat. It's not true. It's stereotypical. That is generalizing, right? Giving a general statement that's not always true. So I then emphasize and say, well, by and large, right, means mostly, generally speaking, by and large, the people are very friendly. So I'm trying to emphasize that not everybody is friendly, but most people. Because we are on the coast, a lot of people are into water activities and sailing, surfing. And then I identify one, fishing is very popular. It's a big industry here. But I find the people are friendly and easy to get on with. It's easy to have a relationship with them, to get along with them, right? So notice, although I'm talking a bit about industry, that's because I don't know the examiner's questions. I'm just focusing on what the people are like. Okay, great. Next question. What is the main local industry in your hometown? So here, of course, don't worry if you've already talked about that. You can say it again in a different way, more detail, and you can always say, well, as I mentioned before, okay, if that's the case. Let me ask you, what is the main local industry in your hometown? Okay, here's my model answer. I think there are two main things. In this city, we have a lot of fishermen because we are on the coast. So fishing is a big, big industry. And the other one is tourism. There's a lot of people come to visit from other countries and other parts of the country. They will come here for the beaches, for the summertime in particular. It gets very, very busy. So tourism is probably one of the key sectors for this city. Okay, let's have a look at the language I use there, right? So I said, I think there are two main things. It's a signpost to say, listen, I'm going to talk about two areas. The first one, I'm repeating what I said before. We have a lot of fishermen because we're on the coast. So fishing is a big industry. That's fine. But now I'm developing my answer saying, and the other one is tourism. A lot of people come to visit from other countries and other parts of the country, and they will come here for the beaches. So notice they will come is the future tense for repetition or habit. It's not the future. It's just a repetition or a habit in the present, right? They will come here. It's like we say, I will get up at 7 o'clock every day. It's will for a habit we have. They will come here for the beaches, for the summertime, and in particular, emphasizing it gets very busy. For the summertime in particular. So, conclusion, tourism is probably one of the key sectors. The sector, so industry is more about building things like manufacturing or building, construction, engineering. Sectors is used more for service, like the hospital sector, the medical sector, the education sector, tourism sector. When it's more about services, we call it the sector. The key sector would be tourism. Okay, lovely. Nice answer. Next question. What improvements would you like to make to your hometown? That's interesting. This is my model answer. Well, if I could, the one thing I would change is I would overhaul the whole road system. I mean, it's a small city, but the roads are not great. There are bicycle lanes that stop and finish. There are bus lanes that are in the wrong place. There are traffic jams that are a bit chaotic. I think the whole road system just needs changing and updating to make it more convenient for everybody in the city. Let's have a look at the language here. Well, I always say well, don't I? It's a great way to start. You don't have to do that, really. Well, if I could, the one thing I would change. So here I'm emphasizing again, right? Instead of saying I would change A, I say the one thing I would change is A. And also what I do here is I'm imagining, right? If I could, because the reality is I can't change my hometown. So I use this kind of imagine expression. If I could, the one thing I would change is I would overhaul the whole road system. Overhaul is to change completely, change everything, the road system. I mean, it's a small city, but the roads are not great. Again, this is the use of the negative to be polite, right? I could say the roads are terrible, but it's maybe a very British thing, but an English thing. It's nice to say, well, the roads are not great. There are bicycle lanes. So in the city on the roads, you have the lane for the car. And then sometimes you have a special lane for the bicycle and a special lane for the bus sometimes. Okay. And then there are bus lanes that are in the wrong place. Traffic jams, you may know, right? When there are too many cars and that they move very, very slowly. Chaotic means there's no order. There's no organization. So instead of things being in order, they are all over the place. Chaotic. 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 Comes from the word chaos, meaning disorder. I think the whole road system needs changing, updating. So update is to make new. So we've got overhaul, change, update, right? Very similar meanings to make it more convenient. Okay. That's it. Nice question. Nice answer. Final question for you. Is your hometown a good place to bring up children? Okay. This is what I would say. Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the schools are not out of this world, if the truth be told. But when it comes to free time activities, it's great. You've got the beaches. You've got lots of parks. In fact, not far from where we live, there's a natural park where you could go and see wild animals out in nature. And along the coastline, I think, in every nook and cranny, you can probably find a beach that children will really, really like. Okay, good. Let's have a look at the language I'm using. Oh, without a doubt. That means for sure. Yes, there is no doubt. I mean, the schools are not out of this world. Can you see I'm using the negative again? The schools are terrible, or the schools are not great. Out of this world means great, fantastic. So the schools are not out of this world, right? It means I don't like them very much. If the truth be told, lovely. But when it comes to, so it's a signpost, I'm telling you what I'm going to talk about. When it comes to free time activities, so it's a clear signpost. It's great. You've got the beaches, you've got lots of parks. So you've got that repetition. Sometimes I talked about 3. You've got this, you've got that, you've got this. So don't be afraid of repetition. It helps your fluency and it's just easier. Keep it simple. In fact, so I'm adding some extra information. Not far from where we live, there's a natural park where you could go and see wild animals out in nature. And then finally, and extra, developing the answer. Along the coastline, I think, in every nook and cranny. Every nook and cranny is an idiomatic expression. It means every single place. When you look in every nook and cranny, you look in every single small place. You can probably find a beach that children will really like. Great. So that's the end of all the questions around hometown. Remember, hometown, don't worry if you talk about the town where you were born or the town where you live. The examiner doesn't know and the examiner doesn't care. They just want to hear you talk, right? Okay, lovely.